Hi, welcome to Adventure in Time and Space History YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about the 10th Doctor. I've got his sonic screwdriver here. See? The 10th Doctor was played by David Tennant, which was a really great actor. Came out of the Shakespeare a drama company. I decided to do this video different than I did my ninth Doctor review. I posted some episodes on one of the Doctor Who Facebook groups I'm on, and decided to see which ones those people in that group would like me to discuss. And the one that got the most votes is the one of the last two-part episode of David Tennant, the 10th Doctor's era. I'm going to start with, I have to look at my sheet here. I'm going to talk about Satan's Pit. That's one of the episodes with Rose. They take the TARDIS, they're in the TARDIS, and they end up landing in this space station, or whatever you want to call it. And there was this writing on the wall. And Rose asks if it can be translated, and the Doctor says it is so old, the TARDIS even won't translate. And then she saw another thing that says, "Welcome to Hell." And here they come to find out later on, there was people on the space station. They go to the certain area whenever the people there, meet the Doctor Rose, and they take them to where the captain is. Well, the captain, the person who took the place of the captain, because the other captain died. And he says, "Welcome to Hell." And they open the sunroof up there. Not really the sunroof, but the roof. And you staring at it long enough, it looks evil. It was a collapsing star. But this one piece of rock, planet, or whatever you want to call it, has not fallen into the black hole. It was stationed like something was holding it there. Later on, they go down. This is where we also meet the Ood for the first time as well. They take him and another person that's from that space station, go down where they drilled to the bottom of this area. And there's this round thing, and then there's writing, and they couldn't figure out. And finally, the thing opened up, and they couldn't get back, bring the thing back up because the string broke. But he wanted to jump down and see what was down in it. And he was just hanging there, and he's like, the urge to want to jump. And he's debating. He says, "Yeah, why not?" He let himself fall. And before that, he says, I want something you tell Rose. So I'll forget it. She'll know what I mean. He falls down, and all this and that, and his helmet, broke and everything. He took it off. And something wanted him down there because he was able to breathe. There was no, it had an atmosphere, a breathable atmosphere. And then he saw this creature, and he says, I've seen demigods and all sorts of gods. I mean, he names them all, the types of gods that he had. And there's these two vases on both sides on rock here. And he picks up this big heavy rock, and he was gonna smash, and he's like, decide not to. And later on, he's like, he does it. He says, I don't care. She believes in me. And he destroys that. And when he destroys it, that planet and all that it starts to be sucked in to the black hole. Now, in that time, their people were on a rocket to leave. And the black hole even started to pull them, and they couldn't break loose. One of the guys who was an archaeologist, who he did the studying of the writing, was, overcome, possessed, whatever you want to call it, and his voice changed. So she took a nail gun, one of these nail guns, broke the glass and sucked him out. And then the captain put like a special whatever shield down that, so they won't be sucked out. But ever since that happened, that guy fell right into the black hole. And the TARDIS showed up, and he had the person that went down to that planet, the rock or whatever, and he wanted to make a trade for Rose. And, at the end, he says a few things, and the woman says, well, who are you? We don't know about you. And he says, oh, I'm a stuff of legend. Now, I like that part right there. That says it all about the Doctor. The other one I'm going to talk about, and it's the last episode that Rose was in, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Army of Ghosts is when they come back, and apparently the Doctor hasn't been there, that this so-called, they call ghost, appears, loved ones. And she tells Rose to meet her grandfather. Rose, afterwards told the Doctor that her grandfather died of a heart attack. He hasn't, he's been gone for so long. And the Doctor just didn't believe it. He wanted to scientifically prove it. And that's where he could tell he did the equipment, made the thing, and he put on those 3D glasses, as we all know, and was looking at this thing, and he's like, the thing was like caught in this triangle that the Doctor created. And Torchwood, before Captain Jack, was different then. The woman in charge stopped the ghost ship. They found out where that thing was coming from and pinpointed it. Well, apparently they got the TARDIS on this truck. Now, Rose Taylor and the Doctor and then her mother were locked in the TARDIS. Well, when the TARDIS door opened, out came the Doctor and then Rose's mother, who he passed off as Rose. And the comments he made are very funny and laughable, and basically Rose snuck out and went down where they had the spear. Little be knows that Mickey was there. Now, I have to mention the episode called Army of Steel. It's in the parallel universe. Her dad who died, in where she was from, but in the parallel universe, he's alive, and all his things that he, all these schemes that he did, they made him really, really rich. Um, so when they destroyed the Cybermen in Army of Steel, they left Mickey in that parallel universe. Mickey says since they lost Ricky, which Ricky looks just like Mickey, Mickey wanted to stay and fight. So they left that parallel universe. The reason why I bring this up is because it also kind of comes into play with this episode, Army of Ghosts, and then Doomsday. Army of Ghosts, Mickey was down there and he told Rose, shh, and he pulled out this gun, this not real gun, but this, it was like a gun, but it was a special type of thing. I think it was Cyberman. And all of a sudden, the ghosts end up appearing that they were actually the Cybermen. And when that happened, the spear started to open up. And here we see the Daleks. There were 3 of them. And then there was a little, there was like a spaceship capsule, whatever, that was of Time Lord science, as they said. One touch from the Traveler would cause the thing to open. So the Doctor goes down there to rescue Mickey and Rose. And as they finally get out, Mickey trips and puts his hand. Now, since he time traveled with the Doctor and Rose, he had that stuff. He put his hand on it and sensed it, just a DNA type thing. And it caused the thing to activate. So they end up killing the Cybermen because they were more powerful than the Cybermen. They took the thing out, and it out of this place in the open on the street. As it lifted up in the air, it opened up, and all these Daleks were coming out. And the Doctor and Rose Tyler's dad from the parallel universe, Pete Tyler, they were looking at this, and because they were up, I'm leaving a whole look of it out, but you have to watch the episode. I'm just giving a brief summary. They were upstairs, and then that's when he realized it was a prison ship, bigger on the inside than the outside. That's why it's Time Lord science, basically. And all these Daleks were coming out, and that's why he said bigger on the inside. It's a prison ship. But from what Pete Tyler said, it's not only this universe, but the other universe parallel. That apparently the Daleks went, I don't know if it's Daleks went first, and then the Cybermen followed afterwards. Now, the whole thing is, Doomsday towards the end is a tearjerker. I will say that. The only thing that Pete Tyler from the alternate universe said the only way to destroy the Daleks and the Cybermen is to close the void, which is the empty space. And in order to do that, he had to open up the ghost ship, pulling these levers. And he had these special magnet things you hold on. And apparently one of the levers started going, and then Rose was holding onto it to pull it, to stop it from going all the way down. And she started losing her grip. And she started getting pulled. And the Doctor was watching that, and he was also saying, Rose! And apparently here comes her dad from the alternate universe, teleports with that special thing that they have and leaves, saves her life, but sticks her in the parallel universe. There's no way that she can get back. When the doctor did that, he closed the void. Whereas Rose was stuck in that parallel universe from the doctor, and she was on the other side of Torchwood, you could see the motion between the two. The last part of this, she was on this place, this beach, this bay area, and a doctor showed up, and she said, "Oh, you look like a ghost." And he took his sonic screwdriver to bring him to have his image coming clear. She went to go touch him and says, "No, I'm just the image. I'm bringing up the sun to say goodbye to you." You know, he couldn't see her anymore because there's no way you can go into a parallel world. There's something, we don't understand. It's something I don't understand, but basically, there's no way he could ever see her again. And he asked, "Oh, where did the gap ended up?" And she said, "Dalek goes stranded." Oh, he says, "Dalek?" She said, "Oh, no, Dalek Ostraden means Bad Wolf Bay." As we see, when we look back in the Ninth Doctor, when Rose looked in the TARDIS, she said, "I leave the name, I leave myself," which is Bad Wolf. And that's the name she left for herself. So, in fact, it was basically set in stone. And Rose Tyler at the time, she goes, "Well, I love you." And the doctor says, "Rose Tyler." And that's it. He disappeared. And next thing you know, you could see a tear coming down his eyes. It left us hanging to we don't even know what he was going to say. It just leaves us wondering. But the reason why I say that it's a tearjerker is because Rose Tyler was such a fixture with the Ninth Doctor and the 10th Doctor up to that point. To have her be stuck in the parallel world knowing that she'll never see the Doctor again is sad, and that's why I say tearjerker. Like, let's just say, but sorry, if I look down, I'm looking at my list here because it's a lot of times I can't really remember a lot of stuff. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Shakespeare Code. This is the first trip that Martha Jones goes with on the Doctor, that he offers her one trip. Well, they go back to Shakespeare time, way back when Shakespeare was first starting out. Now, I love this because I love theater. And I had to read the play Hamlet, but I watched the video instead because you tried to read the English the way they wrote back then. It's kind of hard to understand. But I really liked that episode because it was interesting. It was because of William Shakespeare. But the story is these witches per se, but they were aliens. I forget what they call them. Shakespeare was supposed to write Love's Labour 1. But they got him to write the rest of the script to put in numbers that were going to be said during the play to cause the witches to the sky to open up and the other ones to come out. Well, the doctor sent William Shakespeare to go to stop the play. And then once they get there, when he finally reaches there, they use words, which I find fascinating. Sorry, sound like that ninth doctor there. But I find it really interesting that they used the words to trap these witches in this, globe, this little glass globe ball, that I don't know how you will call, the thing that you look into, that you see in some of the movies, the crystal ball. He locked them in there. So, because that was the only way, but they did that with the words. And I really liked that episode. It was interesting. The next episode I'm going to mention is Gridlock. Now, this was interesting per se. It had a good story. This is where we see the face of Bo again. And he sacrificed his life, his being, just so the people could escape and be able to leave New York, which is dead. There's nothing there anymore. And they, because of him, they were able to reach and go up, and the sun was shining and all that. And like I said, it was a good episode, but he ends up also telling Martha about his planet, how beautiful it is, how red and all the different landscape. And just, that was an interesting part, that he got a chance to share about the world that is no longer around anymore, because he, made the choice of destroying his race so he can destroy the Daleks, because that was the only answer. The next one, I think it's like a 3-parter. It's kind of hard to figure. It's called Utopia, The Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. Now, Utopia is really interesting. It's where they were on Earth, and all of a sudden, you see Captain Jack Harkness went, Doctor, and he's like on the TARDIS. Well, the TARDIS goes way, 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 way forward to where the Earth, it's just nothing but, there's no sun, no nothing. And these, the humans, and it's just interesting. And this old man is trying to save those humans to send them to Utopia, which they call Utopia, City of Diamonds. And he was trying to get this rocket ship to go. And when they finally, with the help of Doctor, be able to do that, she saw this watch that this doctor, this old guy had. And she says it looked like a fog watch and everything. And he kept hearing the sounds of this noise. And he looked at this thing. He walked in the TARDIS, the doors closed, and opened it up, regenerated into, guess what? The Master. And because of that, he goes, bye-bye. And the TARDIS disappears. But before it did, the 10th Doctor used his sonic screwdriver that the TARDIS can only go back to a certain time. It's been a while since I watched the episode, but it couldn't go anywhere. It was stuck in a certain certain year that he set it for. And the whole story goes, they go back to Earth. They finally teleport back to Earth using, the teleporter that Captain Jack Harkness had. All of a sudden, the Angel Network, and which everybody knows, this woman gave a message out on the Angel Network about Saxton. How he's not really human, that there's something not right about him. And apparently, it was in that the doctor said, the master told the doctor to run for his life. Eventually, they had these, he took the keys, TARDIS keys, and he did it to where you put it on, and he's going like this and asking Martha if he can see me. He's going like this. And Martha's going like, I can't, you're not there. So they got up on the ship, the Valiant, and they were trying to sneak up on the master. The doctor was going to do it since it was his responsibility. Well, apparently the master saw the doctor. And he took his sonic screwdriver, since he had the doctor's hand, he had his DNA. And before he did what he did, he shot Captain Jack Harkness got taken away and locked up. And we know Captain Jack Harkness is the man they cannot die. And in the process, the master took his sonic screwdriver and reversed the doctor, aged him. And because of, all this, through the episode, we also see Martha Jones meets this guy. And the guy says, we heard stories about you. The woman who walked the earth, she found the gun it had 4 parts, but she found the 3 parts. It was because at TARDIS key, she was able to walk around and telling her story to everybody she sees. They went back. They went back to this doctor, this not real doctor, like Doctor Who, but this scientist or whatever. And they capture what was called the Taclophae, which in a sense was the humans. And there was a way they captured it, and they opened it up. And you heard this person says, the diamonds filled was, the diamonds, sky made of diamonds, And that's when they realized there's no such thing as utopia. And also on top of this, we also watch that after Martha left, that this woman gave a message to give to the master about Martha, that she had news about Martha. Well, Martha was down in where all these people were huddled, and they wanted her to talk, and the guy says, well, let her rest. She says, no, I want to. And as we know, the master was down there calling out Martha Jones, you know, not her name, but basically calling her out. Well, she came out because she didn't want anybody to die. He says, throw me the bag. She threw the bag. He destroyed it. He took her, you know, they went back to the Valiant. And he says, on your knees. And she gets on her knees and all of a sudden she laughs. And he says, what's funny? And she told him. And she said, you know, all this, that. And as the clock was counting down, she used that clock to, when it hit a certain number, everybody was supposed to think in their mind and say, the doctor. And as everybody around the world, every country and everything, you know, India, France, Germany, Russia, America, England, the UK, Ireland, you know, all around the world, everybody was going, the doctor, singing and thinking it. And it was then that it reversed. And the doctor was, you know, regenerating back to himself, you know, becoming, you know, his age was getting younger, you know, but he wasn't really young, you know, you don't understand. The doctor's older, but he looks young, basically. But as that, the master was saying, no, no, no. And he walked down, and you can see the way it was. He walked down to them, over to the master and says, I forgive you. Now that was touching because the doctor and the master were children of Gallifrey. At the time, they were friends, basically. One who looked in the temple schism, gone mad, and everyone, the doctor, ran away. So the one that looked in the tempered schism went mad, so he was known as the master. And next thing he knows is Lucy, you know, well, before that, everything, it went back to the Toclafay disappeared. Everything went back to where time, it went all the way back to right after the president was shot. I'm sorry, I'm like skipping around here, basically. Sorry. But apparently through all that, Lucy, who was married to the master, who technically was Harold Saxton, she took a gun and shot the master. And the doctor is asking them to regenerate. He, you know, telling him, you know, don't die, regenerate. And he goes, I refuse. And the last part that we see is the doctor burning the master's body. Because that's how the Time Lords, you know, that's the way they do things. And we don't know the history about that. But, you know, one thing of a Time Lord can change everything. So that's the only way to do that. So it was sad because, you know, that happened. But we will never see the end of the master again. You know? So, and after the thing with Martha Jones, and he meets Donna Noble, basically. So, I mean, there's some episodes that have Donna Noble that they didn't mention, but I'm going to say that's Nick's companion after Martha Jones, basically. The last but final two-parter episode was touching and had one of the best speeches that David Tennant ever did. It's called The End of Time, Part 1, Part 2. The speech that he made to Wolfram Mott is the most powerful. And the one thing about it is when he says something has been drawing us together with Wolford. There's something there. And he talks about dying. He says he will knock 4 times. And I don't know. He says if I'm killed before regeneration, yes. But he says he dies, but yet he regenerates, but feel like it's dying. He says, and some man goes sauntering off. Man, not woman, man. And it was here where we meet the master again. And it's because of his ring, they were able to bring him back. But he kept something with the master. The energy was in him, was destroying him. Now, another part of this is there was this man and his daughter. He wanted to use a special thing to give his daughter endless light, to make her be able to be young forever. I mean, that sounds kind of evil. They find the master and he helps them. And in over things, the master causes everyone to have the master's face, And the spaceship with these cactus, I mean, that's the only way to explain them. They're a different race, but they look like cactuses because they have little prickly things. That's what the only way to describe. Apparently, they're in the spaceship, and he had to cause the power to have it be no power because they sent missiles, and the missiles can find them. But then he's like, somehow they fixed the power. But before that, another thing that was so touching is that Wolfram Mott had the gun. He never used it, kept it in the box all this time, and gave it to the doctor. And the doctor wouldn't take it. And the speech from the person who played Wolfram Mott, that speech was touching. And the doctor did finally take the gun. And the spaceship, that they were in, and they were shooting the missiles. And apparently the doctor somehow jumped out of the ship, came crashing into through the glass and everything. But before that, he got a white, the master had found a white dwarf star, which means only thing, the Time Lords. And because of that, he was able to bring Gallifrey back, and it come into come close into the Earth's atmosphere. So here we find 2 of the Time Lords with like this, with their eyes covered, kneeling, and Rassilon in the New Who called the master a disease. and wanted to kill him. And at that time, the doctor had a gun. It shoot the Ruslan or shoot the master. Instead, he shooted the white dwarf star, which after he did that, he told the master to duck, and he shot that, and Gallifrey went. But before that, the master used everything within him to attack Rassilon. And in that episode was very meanly touching. Since that happened, the thing was going into overload. And Wilford Mott was stuck in one of the compartments where the door was locked. And the only way to unlock the door was another person walk in the one next to it and unlock the door. He did that. Wilford Mott, before he did that, Wilford Mott says, no, leave me. I'm an old man. And the doctor did a speech, but he said, it would be my honor. And he walked in and absorbed all the radiation, all that stuff. And after he's like, after that, the door popped up. He said, oh gosh, now it opens. And he takes his hand, and all the battle scars he had, all the, cuts he had in his face were gone. And Wilford mentioned something. He says, well, it's only just begun. He says, you'll see me again. Next time we see the doctor, he goes back to get his reward. He goes back and sees Martha Jones, and this Tardan's going to attack him. He goes, boom, around the back of the head, right at that spot in the back, and knocks him out. And then the next one, he is on this place where Captain Jack Harkness is, and he writes on a note, and Alonzo, who was in The Voyage of the Damned, was there, and he wrote on a note. And Captain Jack Harkness saw him. He went like this. And another one is where Donna just gets married. And he was at the wedding, and, Donna Noma's parents come, Donna Noma's mother and her grandfather. And he tells about the guy. He said the two are arrested, something unknown. And he says, I don't carry money, but I went back in time and talked to, Donna's father, and you see, her mother's face, and it was a lottery ticket. And she gave it to her, daughter, Donna. She says, I hope it's just not another bill. She said, oh, lottery ticket. And she stuck it in here. She said, it may come in handy. And as he was leaving, Wilford Mott goes like that to salute him. And then the last episode is where we see he's starting to regenerate and he's feeling it. And that's when he went back in 2005 on New Year's Day and sees Rose Tyler and stuff like this. And he says, I believe that you would have a great year. And see, the doctor the 10th Doctor remembers that every other doctor before, each doctor remembers the doctor before, all the memories, basically. And as he was walking towards his TARDIS, we see Liud, and he says, we will sing you to your death. And you hear them singing. And he walks in the he walks to the TARDIS and halfway in pain and opens the door and goes and closes and takes off his jacket. And we heard those famous words, I don't want to go. Now, there's a lot of speculation on, we see a lot of the doctors have long speeches before they regenerate. But David Tennant, I don't want to go, I think is the most touching. Because David Tennant, the actor, did not want to leave the TARDIS. He didn't want to, lead the episode. And it was his way to the fans saying he doesn't want to, And that's when he regenerates into the 11th Doctor, and when we see the 11th Doctor being Matt Smith. And I would discuss that in my next episode with the 11th Doctor. And I'm hoping that what I covered that you enjoyed, and if there's anything that I didn't cover that you thought was interesting, put it down in the comments below. And I also want to say, like, subscribe, and share my channel. And also on top of this, a shout out to the channel called The TARDIS Zone. My channel gets a lot of about Doctor Who. The TARDIS Zone too. He shares a lot of things, and he has a live chat call-in that people talk about Doctor Who stuff. So, like I said, like, share, and subscribe. I will be bringing more videos your way about other doctors. And like I said, until next time, goodbye.